Pooh, please.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, Springfield. Welcome to the Township of Springfield Planning Board meeting of June 28th, 2022. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law. Notice was published on June 18th in the Star Ledger, which for now is the official newspaper of the Township of Springfield for 2022, and posted in the Annex Building on June 21st, 2022. Can we do a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we're going to have our attorney lead the pledge since he did it so well going forward for the board.
Every month I sit next to a retired military guy, and he's got a cadence, and he also taught for 40 years. So I do it the way Clifford tells me to.
We'll have you do it next time. Can we have a quick roll call?
Yep. Mayor Alexander Kaiser.
Present.
Committeeman Rich Huber is absent. Mr. David Barnett is absent. Mr. Andrew Schwartz.
Here.
Mr. Aaron Lawfer is absent. Mr. Brian Brendel is absent. Ms. Marissa Ruggiero.
Here.
Mr. Thomas Lopes is absent. Mr. Scott Wishna.
Here.
Vice Chair Sharon Kessel is absent, and Chairman Jeffrey Tiger.
Perfect. I'm here. So we confirm, Ms. Law, we have 5, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, the first item of business is the discussion of our official newspaper. For over the years, we've been going back and forth. And, last year we did the Star Ledger, and I know it's a great paper. I grew up reading it. But the cost compared to the local source, we want to be able to have both. Ms. Law, can you just give us a quick example? What would be the thing? What would be
The cost?
the example of how you would notice and what the cost is? The board.
Sure. The Star Ledger is about 3 times more expensive than the local source. So, for example, maybe a generic ad, maybe advertising that we're changing a meeting time or changing a date. With the local source, it's usually around $25 to $30, whereas the Star Ledger, it ranges between $80 and $130. So it's a substantial difference.
So we should, with this meeting, we noticed late, so we would have had to use the Star Ledger, but most of the time we'd be able to use the local source.
Yes.
Okay. Can I open it up for any questions? Mayor?
I don't have any questions per se. I do think it's the right move to try to save some money, especially since we do move around lately a lot, especially in regards to having conflicting dates with court. So I've noticed since my time on here, we've moved several meetings, which is fine. But if we have another venue, it just gives us a little more flexibility, and potentially we'll save some taxpayer money down the line.
All right, that's okay. Ms. Ruggiero?
I don't have any questions, but I agree. I think anything we can do to save some taxpayer money is a good thing.
Mr. Schwartz?
I am all about saving the taxpayers money where it is reasonable to do so. I just don't think it is reasonable to do so here, to give those taxpayers money to a newspaper that treats Springfield like a 8th class citizen. That whenever you open that paper, good luck finding anything about Springfield that we don't pay for. And I don't believe it is in the best interests of the citizen of Springfield to support the local source in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, Mayor, maybe that's something you can reach out to the local source representing the town. That's some of the feedback that you've heard.
I can certainly do that. I mean, they are an independent press, but they can certainly cover us more often. I don't think I've seen a reporter at a single meeting, but for that, I haven't seen a Tap Into reporter who just monitors online and sometimes gets quotes wrong.
Mr. Keynes, do we have any other options under the appropriate law in terms of advertising meeting dates or changes online through the township website instead of the newspaper?
They're beginning to change that around, but as of today, not yet. But I suspect in the next couple of months, there's a number of pieces of legislation that are coming up, as a possibility. Quite frankly, what other newspaper options do you have? Are these just the only two that service Springfield folks?
Realistically, yes.
There's no other weekly or something like that?
No. The main thing, Glenn, is I mean, I know it's not our decision, but we should be able to use the township website. That's all people look at, if anything.
I'm not arguing that,
Yeah.
but the problem is that I don't think you can use it exclusively at this point. You know what I'll do? I'll get something out to you, Jeff. It's the summertime. I have youngins in law school with a little time to do a little research, so we can anything. Mr. Schwartz is laughing at that because he understands what I'm saying.
I full well understand.
Perfect.
So suppose I have him take a look, but in the meantime, why don't you just switch it? And you're going to keep the ledger as the backup because you need
Yep.
two, right? Okay,
Yep.
that's fine. Okay,
Yeah, and Mr. Keynes, if you could just keep us alerted as to the moment that law changes so that we can save our taxpayers even more money.
counsel, you'll be the second to know. How's that?
I appreciate that.
Perfect. Let the record reflect Mr. Huber just joined. Mr. Wishna, any questions?
I remember feeling.
I have no
I
questions.
think this came up in past years, and I don't remember what the answer was, so I'm asking it because I don't remember, not to be a wise guy or anything. But was there ever consistency determined upon what newspaper to use if we're utilizing the same paper for notifications for town committee meetings and zoning meetings, or are we all over the board?
We're independent. We can do what we want. The board can pick which paper
Okay.
we want to use. No township-
Somebody's got to turn something off. We're getting an awful lot of feedback.
And just from the township's perspective, we use both.
Okay.
Right, and that's the good practice, Mayor. That's usually the way it goes.
Okay.
But
All right.
we'll check it. I'll get a memo out, and then Jen can circulate it. Okay.
Perfect. All right.
I
Well,
have no other questions.
that's great. So
Chairman.
seeing no one else, you know, I would, I'll make a motion to allow the local source as another paper we can use, and it's up to the board secretary to determine the right cost-effective method to notice.
Second.
Testify that White House counsel
Jen,
passed
can I have a roll call, Jen?
Sure. Chair Tiger,
Yes.
Cinnamon Huber,
Yes.
Alex Kaiser, Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Abstain.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
and Mr. Wishna.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. The last item on the agenda is ordinance review, ordinance 2022-16 for cannabis. If you guys recall, this ordinance regulation came to us in August of 2021. The planning board discussed the ordinance at our meeting in August 2nd of 2021. And, you know, we referred it back to the township committee with several comments and concerns about, you know, distance from a school and so forth. There's some minor changes. The governing body on May 10th introduced the ordinance and referring it to us to kind of re-review, but this would permit cannabis as a manufacturer, wholesale distributor, or delivery service as a conditional use in the industrial I-20 and 40 zone, which is adjacent to the HC zone. So we have our planner she's going to give us a quick overview of what the changes are. And at the end of this, we're just going to be passing a resolution that we found this consistent with the master plan. But Ms. Planner?
So as you mentioned, this is an ordinance that seeks to permit and regulate different types of cannabis uses. In the past, the ordinance only related to recreational cannabis, and this ordinance would permit cannabis cultivators, manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, and delivery service uses in the I-20 and I-40 zones as conditional uses. You know, these zones are located along, Route 22 near the HC zone where the recreational cannabis use is already permitted. The conditional use standards would include restrictions that these not be located within 200 feet of sensitive uses like playgrounds and schools, and also residential zones. So we reviewed the 1997 master plan and the subsequent reexamination reports and found that No provisions of ordinance 2022-16 would be inconsistent with these plans. And in fact, last year, when you reviewed similar cannabis legislation along Route 22, you found that the legislation would advance goal number 3 of the master plan, which is to take advantage of redevelopment opportunities along the Route 22 corridor as new uses are proposed for underutilized sites. And I think that that could be a similar case with this ordinance.
Thank you. For the board's edification, I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Disco, who is out of the country, which would have loved to be on this meeting. And he concurred with Keenan's letter that he found this to be consistent with their master plan as well. So with that, I wanted to open up to any questions. Mr. Schwartz, you want to go first?
None. Thank you.
Mr. Wishna?
No questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Ruggiero?
No questions for me.
Mr. Huber? No questions. And I have no questions, Mayor Kaiser?
No questions, but I do want to thank everybody for getting on this special meeting and Chairman for calling it. It's the Township Committee really
Okay.
with it, and we'll take similar action tonight.
Well, it hasn't passed yet, so don't thank us yet. Okay. I don't think I have to open up the public because it's a review, right, Glenn?
It doesn't hurt. Is there any public
Okay.
out there?
Yeah, Apu, is there any public on this?
Seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close to the public and remand it back to the board. So basically, I'm asking for a motion to authorize our board attorney to draft a letter to the Township Committee that we met tonight, that we reviewed the ordinance and we find it consistent with the master plan.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Huber,
Yes.
Mayor Kaiser,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Wishna,
Yeah.
and Chair Tiger.
Yes. Okay, perfect. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public for any and all matters before the board.
Seeing none.
Seeing none. Okay, well then we'll close the public portion and
Close.
accept a motion to adjourn for our July, tentatively right now.
Adjourn.
Yes, sir, Mr. Huber.
Adjourn. Goodbye.
Yeah, motion to adjourn, but I just announced that our next meeting will be July 11th at 6:30 PM as of now.
Now I can thank everybody for taking.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.